The morning sun rose over the glass towers of downtown, casting long golden reflections that danced across the polished streets. Daniel Reeves stepped out of his black Rolls-Royce, straightening the cuffs of his immaculate suit. His every movement was precise, deliberate, just like the man himself. The world knew him as the formidable CEO of Reeves Global Holdings, a self-made billionaire who had built an empire from the ground up. But few knew how much emptiness sat behind that calm, commanding exterior. Since his wife's death 3 years ago, Daniel had buried himself in work. He filled his calendar so tightly that there was no space for grief, no time to think, no moment to remember. He was always moving, always chasing, yet running from something invisible. He entered the lobby of his company, greeted by polished marble floors and an army of assistants ready to fall in line the moment he stepped inside. But before the glass doors could shut behind him, a small, trembling voice called out from the sidewalk. "Daddy, you forgot your lunch." Daniel stopped mid-step. He turned, startled, his sharp blue eyes scanning for the source. There, standing on the pavement, was a little girl no taller than his waist. She wore a pink jacket a size too big and clutched a bright lunchbox covered with glittering unicorn stickers. Her big brown eyes blinked up at him with such innocence that it made his heart skip. "Daddy," she said again, running toward him on tiny legs. "You left it on the counter. Mommy said not to forget." Daniel froze completely. People passing by slowed down to watch. A few employees exchanged curious looks, whispering to each other. The billionaire CEO who never smiled was being called "Daddy" by a stranger's child. He crouched down to her level, confusion written all over his face. "Sweetheart, I think you've mistaken me for someone else," he said gently. The little girl tilted her head, studying him. "But you look just like him," she said, her voice small but certain. "You even wear the same watch." She pointed to his wrist, and Daniel glanced down. His late wife had given him that watch years ago. Before he could respond, a woman came running down the sidewalk, breathless and flustered. Her long brown hair fell loose from a messy bun, and her clothes were simple, an old cardigan, jeans, and flower on her sleeve. She looked like she had been in a rush, maybe from work. "Lila," she gasped, reaching the little girl. "Oh, sweetheart, no, come here." She turned to Daniel, her eyes wide with apology. "I'm so sorry, sir." She thought. "It's fine," Daniel interrupted softly. The woman's shoulders dropped in relief, though her cheeks were still flushed with embarrassment. "She misses her father," she explained quietly, brushing a curl from her daughter's forehead. "He's not around anymore." Daniel felt something shift inside him. He didn't know why, but the words hit him harder than they should have. "I understand," he said after a pause. His gaze lingered on the little girl. "She's very thoughtful." Lila smiled shyly, hiding behind her mother's leg. "You smell like him too," she whispered, her voice so small Daniel barely caught it. For a man who lived surrounded by noise, phones ringing, people talking, deals being made, the child's words pierced the silence of his heart. The mother, clearly uncomfortable, thanked him again and guided her daughter away. As they disappeared into the crowd, Daniel stood frozen, watching them go. Something about that child's eyes, the same soft warmth he used to see in his wife's gaze. It felt impossible, yet familiar. He shook his head, trying to dismiss the thought, and entered the elevator. But all day long, he couldn't focus. His assistant repeated meeting notes twice before he noticed. Numbers blurred, contracts lost meaning. He kept seeing that little girl's face, those eyes filled with trust and innocence. When evening came and his office emptied, Daniel sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker below. He opened the drawer of his desk and pulled out an old photograph, his wife, smiling, holding their newborn son. The ache in his chest returned like an old wound reopening. They were gone, both of them, taken in a single, cruel accident. And yet, for a moment that morning, a stranger's child had made him feel something he hadn't felt in years, a heartbeat that wasn't numb. The next morning, Daniel's driver stopped at the same spot as always. He stepped out, briefcase in hand, ready to bury himself in work again. But as he looked up, he saw her, the same little girl, standing near the steps, waving excitedly. Her mother stood beside her, visibly mortified. "Lila," she whispered harshly. Don't bother that man again. Daniel couldn't help a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. It's all right, he said, walking toward them. Good morning, Lila. The girl's face lit up. Good morning, Daddy, she chirped. Her mother groaned softly. I swear she's not doing this on purpose, the woman said quickly. She just gets confused sometimes. Really, it's fine, Daniel said. Do you work nearby? The woman hesitated before nodding. Yes, across the street, the Maple Corner Bakery. Daniel's eyes brightened slightly. Ah, I've passed by a few times. You make the cinnamon rolls. A faint smile appeared on her lips. I do. They're excellent, he said simply. She blushed slightly, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Thank you. It's my job, and, well, we try. Before she could say more, Lila tugged on her sleeve. Mommy, can I give him the cookie I made? Oh, sweetheart, I don't think. It's okay, Daniel interrupted softly. I'd be honored. The girl reached into her little backpack and pulled out a slightly crumbled cookie wrapped in tissue. Here, she said proudly, holding it out with both hands. It's for your lunch, Daddy. Daniel took it slowly, his throat tightening. Thank you, he said quietly. That's very kind of you. She grinned. Now you won't forget your lunch again. Her mother sighed but couldn't hide her smile. Come on, Lila, say goodbye. Bye, Daddy, the little girl called, waving enthusiastically as they walked toward the bakery. Daniel stood there long after they were gone, the cookie still in his hand. The sweetness of it wasn't just sugar, it was something deeper, something human. A feeling he thought he'd lost forever. When he finally looked down at the cookie again, he noticed the napkin it was wrapped in bore a tiny doodle, 2 stick figures holding hands, one tall, one small. Beneath them, written in clumsy child handwriting, were the words, for Daddy. For the first time in years, Daniel felt his eyes sting. He tucked the napkin gently into his pocket and whispered under his breath, Thank you, Lila.